Friends, because of his dirty clothes. Everyone on the plane was treating him like a beggar with contempt, but just moments later, why did the entire aircraft stand up to salute him, and who is this mysterious person?
Let me tell you what happened that day.
It was a morning flight from New York to Los Angeles, and the aircraft cabin was echoing with the chatter of passengers as the cabin crew busily helped everyone settle into their seats. Amid this crowd of modern travelers, suddenly a mismatched personality entered. A man around 50 years old with deep-toned skin showing clear lines of exhaustion, disheveled hair, and a face marked with profound sadness that made him seem alone even in the crowd. He wore an old blazer with the top button of his shirt underneath left open. His face looked urban, but his social status was difficult to determine, and he was panting as he showed his ticket, found his window seat number 17A, and sat down. Seeing him, a modern woman sitting next to him looked at him with contemptuous eyes and placed a handkerchief over her nose, her expression clearly asking whether this person was really a passenger on this flight. A flight attendant named Sarah was watching him from a distance with suspicious eyes, came closer and said, "Excuse me, sir, may I see your boarding pass once more?" The man smiled peacefully and said, "Yes, of course, here you go." Flight attendant Sarah took the boarding pass and looked at his face with suspicious eyes, then nodded and walked away, while the man, without saying a word, started looking at the clouds outside the window. The person sitting next to him, who couldn't tolerate it anymore, called the flight attendant and said, "Listen, please change my seat. There's a strange smell coming from this person. It's impossible to travel the entire journey like this." Sarah said with a helpless expression, "Sir, I'm very sorry. The flight is completely full. Not a single seat is empty. You'll have to adjust a bit today." Suddenly, someone from a nearby seat shouted, "Hey, Victor, you're here?" The man looked up in surprise, and the voice continued, "Don't you recognize me? I'm Samuel. We studied together in school." Upon recognition, Victor smiled slightly, and Samuel continued talking. "You are the college topper, first in every exam, and today what have you done to yourself, traveling in economy class in such ordinary clothes? Look at me. I'm the CEO of a multinational company with a monthly salary in hundreds of thousands." His words carried more arrogance than friendship, and Victor replied in a calm voice, "It's a long story, Samuel. I'll tell you sometime when we have time." He opened his bag and took out an old framed pair of glasses, his hands trembling slightly, but his eyes had a steel-like determination. Just then the aircraft shook slightly and dipped down a bit, causing mild panic among the passengers, and flight attendant Sarah announced over the intercom, "Dear passengers, please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. We are experiencing slight turbulence. There's nothing to worry about. Everything is under control." But the situation started deteriorating rapidly when suddenly a strong jolt shook the entire aircraft, and prayers began echoing among the passengers. Then the cabin door opened and Sarah ran out, her face pale white with fear, her lips trembling as she shouted, "Please, is there a doctor among you? It's very urgent." A middle-aged man, Dr. Michael Harrison, stood up and said, "I'm a doctor," and quickly moved toward the cockpit. After a while, he returned with a worried face and said, "The pilot has had a sudden stroke. He's unconscious and in no condition to fly the aircraft." Silence fell over the cabin. The pilot was sick and outside was a terrible storm, and co-pilot Captain James was struggling alone to handle this situation. Sarah announced again in a trembling voice, "Is there anyone among you who can fly an aircraft? The situation is very serious." The passengers' faces turned stone cold with fear because when death is so close, no way out seems to exist. At that exact moment, that quiet and sad person Victor raised his hand, and his eyes now showed confidence. Samuel sitting next to him shouted, "Victor, you're going to fly the plane? You'll kill us all. find someone else. Other passengers also started protesting in panic, saying, "You'll let this beggar-like man fly the plane? Couldn't you find anyone better?" Sarah asked hesitantly, "Sir, can you really fly an aircraft?" Victor replied with steady eyes, "Yes, I know how. I last flew one 10 years ago, but I can try." There was something in his calm voice that silenced everyone, and from the cockpit, Captain James shouted, "If he's experienced, send him quickly. I can't handle this alone." Victor stood up, and there was now firmness in his walk. His manner of walking had changed, confidence showing in every step as he entered the cockpit and glanced at the control panel, then put on the headset and contacted the control tower saying, "New York Control, this is Captain Victor Martinez speaking. Call sign Victor Mike. Our pilot is sick, requesting permission for emergency landing." Hearing the name Captain Victor Mike, co-pilot James's eyes widened with amazement because this name was a living legend in the aviation world. 22 years ago, this person had single-handedly safely landed an aircraft with 312 passengers during a terrible storm when he was only 28 years old. But 10 years ago, due to a mechanical failure, he was suspended, and that day he had said his wait would end. When this news spread in the cabin, those who had insulted Victor just moments ago had their faces turn red with shame. The woman who had placed the handkerchief on her nose was sitting with her head bowed, and Samuel's face had turned pale. Outside, the storm was still raging, but in the cockpit Victor's hands were working skillfully. His every instruction was precise, and after a while, without any jolt, the aircraft touched the runway, bringing sighs of relief from the passengers who said, "We didn't even feel the landing. He performed magic." When Victor came out of the cockpit, there was a strange peace on his face, and those passengers who had considered him a beggar were standing with their heads bowed in guilt. Samuel ran over and said, "Brother, you really are Victor Mike. Even today you're the topper. I've lost you." And Victor smiled and said, "It's not about winning or losing, Samuel. I had just lost my self-confidence. Today I got it back." An airline official named Robert pushed through the crowd, came forward, bowed his head and said, "Sir, we tracked your flight performance live. Our board wants to take you back." And Victor looked at the sky and said in a calm voice, "They took away my job, but they couldn't take away my courage." Hearing this, without any instruction, all the passengers on the aircraft stood up one by one, and the entire cabin echoed with applause and respect because the one who was an object of contempt just moments ago had become the true hero of the skies today. And everyone together saluted that legend because true capability never shows in clothes or outward appearance.